Hi guys, Brain here, and welcome to another commentary video. Today we're going to be covering kind of an interesting topic that I've been thinking about on my mind lately. For some reason, I guess it's just because of the Amazon Prime new mask that came out for him. I've been seeing a lot more tricksters out, and when I'm playing out in Dead by Daylight, I've been seeing a lot more people play trickster to try and like get use out of the mask on multiple streams. However, when I'm watching those multiple streams, usually Trickster, both playing as him and playing against him, is not usually met with a lot of positive energy. Usually people are very, I wouldn't say distressed, but are displeased to be facing a Trickster. And a lot of killer mains who are trying to like get into Trickster right now just to enjoy the mask are kind of not too happy doing so. I know there's a lot of very, very devoted Trickster mains that love him a lot. I'm looking at you, Flo. But other than that, it seems like both playing as him and playing against him, a lot of people are pretty dissatisfied with like Trickster as a character, period. And I want to talk about how that, you know, it's kind of weird because like in theory, right? Like in theory, if survivors hate him, you would assume that he's like a really good oppressive character. However, that's not really the case because killers also hate playing as Trickster. So that would imply that he's not that good. So it's kind of like this weird back and forth. I want to like kind of like rigidly define what I think is like fundamentally wrong with Trickster and why he's somehow disliked on both sides at the same time. I think the fundamental thing that comes down to Trickster that makes him so unfun is that you got to split the game of Dead by Daylight, at least on the killer side. You gotta split the game of Dead by Daylight into two sections. And when it comes to the killer role, you have your 1v1 and you have your 4v1. You have your 1v1 and then you have your 4v1. So your 1v1 is like your chase. How good are you in chase? How quickly can you end chase? Somebody like, say, Deathslinger has a much better 1v1 than, say, Sadako, because Deathslinger can, you know, harpoon them before they reach the pallet, reel them in, hit them, whereas Sadako, if they make it to the pallet, there's not much you can really do. Now, a 4v1 situation, 4v1 is like, how well can this killer control the map? How much can the killer put out natural pressure without having to physically be there, or rather have the ability to, you know, be in multiple areas in the map, like very quickly? Say like Blight, for example, has a very easy, very accessible movement option, allows him to have a lot of 4v1 pressure because he's able to traverse the map in a very quick and timely fashion, compared to someone, say, like Myers, who, if, you know, we're on something like Ormond or Mother's Dwelling, you're gonna have a hard time getting across the map to knock somebody off a gen if you need to, whereas Blight can just press his M2 and be there in a minute. So somebody like Blight has a much better 4v1 play than like Myers does. So let's bring this all the way around back to Trickster, because Trickster is seemingly hated by both sides. And I think it comes down to this distinction between the 1v1 pressure and the 4v1 pressure. I think that Trickster has a very oppressive 1v1 potential. I think Trickster is very strong in the 1v1. When you get caught out, even if you have like resources, let's say you're on like Batum, for example, there's plenty of like those car loops that are just like a tile. It's like just like a van or like one of those red cars, and it's just a tile and it's just a pallet right there in the center. It doesn't matter how well you loop. It doesn't matter how good you are at the game. If you're playing Survivor, he's just going to pelt you with knives over time and eventually get you down. And, you know, God forbid you actually don't have a resource. Say you're in the middle of, like, let's keep using Batum. Let's say you're like out in the middle of the street and there's no pallets around. God forbid you're out somewhere like that, because then you quite literally can do nothing against this character. You can kind of just try to like weeble wobble to try and like bait his knives to go certain directions. But in general, you're not going to be able to avoid his knives and anything. It's just like a war of attrition and how quickly he can get you down. It's not a question of if or can or will he down you. It's more of just kind of, you know, when will it happen and how long can I prolong that? And I think foregone conclusions in any game, especially a game like this where it's like a player versus player situation, I feel like that just feels bad. If it feels like your skill doesn't matter and what's about to happen is just a foregone conclusion, it just feels bad. It just doesn't feel good to know that like your chases are foregone conclusions. It doesn't matter how much skill you have. It doesn't matter how hard you try. Eventually, you're just going to go down just because the killer says so. Now, based on what I've been saying so far, you may be assuming that, oh, well, this sounds like Trickster's really strong. This sounds like Trickster is going to be really good. But as you saw from the killer stat rates that they are, the kill rates that Behavior put out the other day, Trickster doesn't actually have a very particularly high kill rate. And, you know, that doesn't really line up with what I've been saying about the 1v1 situation. And here's why. Trickster is a 110 killer, and even though he is technically a ranged killer, he does not have any way to pressure far sides of the map. He's not somebody like Huntress, where he can use his ranged attack to hit somebody far away. He can, but since it takes so many knives to hit someone before they get injured, even if you are able to get one of those super far flying knives, you gotta do that somehow 6 more times in order to pressure that person that's all the way across the map, whereas Huntress gets a full injury by doing basically the same thing. So even though he is a ranged killer, he does not have that ability to apply any sort of 4v1 pressure, and the fact that he's also 110 on top of it means that he's not going to be able to make it to other areas of the map to pressure if there's a gen being done far across the map on Batum, Ormond, any map that can potentially spawn in a larger arrangement. It's going to be really, really painful for him. It literally would be better to be playing somebody like Myers or Doctor, who is just 115 and able to go over there and pressure the gen, than playing Trickster in that regard. So his 4v1 is very, I wouldn't say abysmal, but his 4v1 is very weak. His 4v1 is not very strong at all. So it's not like you're winning matches, because your 4v1 has to be good. Or at least I would say like neutral. Like your 4v1 has to be good or at least neutral, but his 4v1 potential is actually kind of bad. So you're not going to be able to, as Trickster, to be, consistently, I'm talking about consistently. Obviously Tricksters can play really well and have 4v1 pressure, but I would say just in general, in a predisposition, just by playing this character, you are, doing yourself a disservice in your 4v1 capabilities, because he just, as his base kit, is not very good at it. So even though you are able to end chases quickly and be oppressive in chases, you're not going to be controlling the map, and that's kind of the thing that wins the game of Dead by Daylight, is being able to control and corral and pressure the survivors, all 4 of them, and not just winning your chases quickly. You gotta be able to do both. I feel like this base character with his base kit is not very good at doing that. So even though you're very, very annoying in chase and survivors don't like facing you, you're not really winning a lot either, because you're not able to consistently keep on all 4 of them unless they're playing poorly. So he kind of ends up in this weird zone of not being good, but also not being bad. And he just kind of ends up being like bad at both of the jobs he has to do, which is the 1v1 and the 4v1. And nobody ends up enjoying him because like he's just meh. He's just gross. Like, I don't know how else to put it. He's just a very unfortunate character. I feel like I think that's the biggest thing I can say to summarize that. One word is he's a very, very unfortunate character. The fact that he's just unenjoyable in both of the jobs he should be doing. So yeah, isn't that something? But yeah, that's just my analysis on why I think both sides tend to not gravitate towards Trickster or dislike him. You can give me your own take down in the comments down below, because that's gonna be it for today's video, friends. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you so much for spending time with me today, but I do upload daily, so hopefully I will see you tomorrow. If I don't, well, I'll see you when I see you. Goodbye.